So people always say that you should put your best foot forwards. So that's exactly what I did when I created my first YouTube video. Only to then realise I had to make a video that was somehow as good as a video about one of the most loved film series of the 2010s. At that point I realised I'm going to have to put some serious thought into this, so instantly got my extensive market research and advertising team on the case. So whilst they're hard at work, I figured I needed to upload something in the meantime, as I really can't afford to allow my subscribers to get bored. I initially wanted this video to follow in my first video style and talk about being like someone in VR, and thought it would be pretty cool to do it based off the Queen of England. But for some reason no one has made Royal Family VR yet, probably because, as I'm sure everyone is aware, the Queen of England is eternal and, depending on your views, is either the sole cause of the Big Bang or the first thing God saw after saying let there be light. This meant I needed a different person to base the video off, so through some careful thought I decided to choose Tom Cruise. Right. So today we're going to do some Tom Cruise-like things in VR. This will be different to the last video, as we aren't looking for the most Tom Cruise-like VR game, we are just looking to try and reenact some Tom Cruise-like things as best we can in virtual reality. So Days of Thunder is all about NASCAR, and immediately that presents a problem, because being British, the only exposure I've had to NASCAR outside of this film is another well-known film called Cars, and I'm not too sure that that sets the most realistic example of what NASCAR actually is. Nevertheless, I was feeling pretty confident, as in my life I have had to make both left and right turns, which is twice as many types of turns as you have to make in NASCAR. I very quickly realised though exactly what I'd got myself into, and I couldn't even make it off the starting grid without spinning. So to show my lack of fake NASCARing ability, I think a good place to start would be with all the crashes that I ended up making. So after crashing more times than Activision's game servers, I finally got the hang of things and started doing some overtaking. This was actually pretty fun, if not a little bit terrifying, as I wouldn't actually look to my left or right out of fear of just slamming into a wall. Despite this, if there's one thing that both the films about NASCAR that I've seen have taught me, it's that to be a good NASCAR driver you have to drive past a big crash without crashing yourself. With this in mind, I figured I couldn't really be Tom Cruise in Days of Thunder if I didn't at least drive past one big crash and then win a race. Now I'd already caused quite a few crashes that I'd driven past, so that was already pretty much done, but winning the race I figured was going to be really difficult for me. Eventually though I just got really lucky, and there was a massive pile up about halfway through the race which allowed me to just overtake just about everybody and eventually win. I was hoping for a big celebration like in the film, but all I actually got was just this. So Cocktail's a pretty cool film, and I've always wanted to be able to do this. So I was pretty happy when I saw there was actually a game for making cocktails in VR. And then I saw its price tag. So instead we're going to be making cocktails in Job Simulator. Now I did try to do some of the fancy bottle flipping and pouring that you see in the films, but I found it quite difficult in virtual reality. But with some practice I was able to get some pretty cool moves in. Problem is though, you can't be from the film Cocktail if you don't at least try to make a cocktail. So, gonna make a Bloody Mary in virtual reality. So hello and welcome to Rich MS Does Cooking. Today we're going to be making a Bloody Mary in Job Simulator. Now as far as I'm aware, the most important ingredients in a Bloody Mary are going to be tomato juice, vodka and some kind of hot sauce. Now the great thing about a Bloody Mary is you can also add literally anything that you like, but we're not going to be doing that just yet. So to start with, let's get our tomatoes nice and juiced and blended up. Then let's add a little bit of our hot sauce. And to finish things off, we're just going to add a nice little bit of vodka into there. As seen here in the film, we can also add a nice bit of raw egg, just to give it that little bit of extra kick. And what do you know? All sorted. Now I would say Jack Reacher is definitely one of Tom's lesser known films, but despite this it actually has quite a cool scene in it where he beats up a load of cocky arseholes outside of a bar. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now.
It's getting late. Remember, you wanted this. It's okay. You're okay. Get up. Okay. Now we know who's who. Let's get this done. Really?
So Top Gun is a film all about flying fighter jets, so originally I wanted to do this in a game called DCS, or Digital Combat Simulator, as it would allow me to fly the actual jets from the film. There are a few issues however, the main one being the price. After buying the jet in the game and then the aircraft carrier expansion to get the full experience, I'm nearly £100 before I've even taken off. I also didn't know what I'd be getting myself into, as the game literally has Simulator in the title, and after a quick look on the Steam page I can see the amount of detail the game goes into, and I really don't have time to learn how to actually fly a fighter jet. Like honestly, look at all of these buttons, and what the fuck is a steer CMD? So anyway, instead I'm going to be flying around doing Top Gun things in a game called VTOL VR, as I can actually understand at the very least what most of the buttons do. So let's start doing some Top Gun stuffs, kicking things off with just flying around some mountains.
Watch the mountains!
So here I am, flying around some mountains, and it's pretty nice, very peaceful, if not a little bit boring. So next up we are going to land on an aircraft carrier.
Pull up. Altitude. Pull up.
So here I am, I'm just lining up on my approach for the aircraft carrier. You can also see that I can't really see what I'm doing because the instruments block out quite a bit of what I need to see, so I'm kind of just winging it up until the point I can see it again. Then when I get to it, I kind of only just make it on, and then all my instruments start yelling at me, and then I kind of like bank to one side really aggressively and then the other side, and everything's still yelling at me. But I just about managed to get it under control and come to a complete and controlled stop. Whilst being on the aircraft carrier is pretty cool, I really want to be back up in the sky so I'm able to shoot some people down. After messing around, screwing around with the controls for a little bit, I finally just decided that I'm going to do the weird hand wavy thing, and then I'm just going to get launched back out into sea so I can start dogfighting.
Landing gear.
I got good tone. I got tone, I got tone! Fire it!
So once I'm back up in the air, I'm just setting myself up to be able to do some dogfighting with my wingman. I'm messing around, setting my radar up, making sure all my weapon systems are operational. And then with everything up and running, it's just a case of waiting for us to come across some unlucky enemies. So after flying across the sea over onto the mainland, I come across a group of enemies that I figured could do with not being there. I sneak up behind them, give it maximum thrust and shoot off my first missile. First hit's an easy kill, but now they know I'm there. I don't have time to get radar lock on the second target, so I switch over to heat-seeking missiles, fire, and another clean kill. Third guy knows exactly where I am, instantly tries to outclimb me, but little does he know that I've already switched over to my guns as I'm too close to use missiles. A couple of bursts from the cannon later and he's absolutely done for. Look over to my right, see that the final enemy's trying to pull a runner on me. I perform a roll maneuver to get back on his tail so I can line up the shot for the final missile. Switch it back over to heat seekers, pull the trigger, and away he goes. Quick look to my right later, I see him fall into the ground. Now for the most Top Gun thing of all. Once you've had a successful day's hunting and killing, you have got to do a flyby on the control tower. So originally I was struggling to think of something to do from Mission Impossible, because doing stupidly dangerous heists and hanging from stupidly dangerous things makes up most of the movie's runtime. And I needed something that he does in all the different Mission Impossible films and something that I could recreate in VR. So after rewatching most of the Mission Impossible films, I ended up settling on running. As in every single film, there is always one scene or one chase where he does a lot of running. So I'm going to do some serious running in VR. Now, a lot of people don't actually realise this, but when running like Tom Cruise, it's very important that you get the hand position right. When he runs in the films, you'll notice that he always runs with more of a karate chop than a fist on his hand. So while trying to recreate this in a game, it's very important that we take this into account. It's also important that you run completely upright when being Tom Cruise. But once those two things are sorted, all that's left to do is run. So whilst my virtual self runs around pretending to be Tom Cruise, I just want to thank anyone who's made it to the end of the video. Special thanks to anyone who subbed from the last video and has come again to see this one. If you're new and you did like the video, please do consider subscribing and dropping a like on it. It would help absolutely massively. Feel free to talk about Tom Cruise and VR and just about anything else down in the comments below, and I will see anyone in the next video.